According to Vanessa, she had slept with many men over the years, and because of the pain she suffered from men in the past, she told the spiritual man, who gave her the snake power, that she wanted men to suffer. So the spiritual man made it in such a way that any man who became deeply involved with her would slowly lose his destiny, and some would even die exactly 1 year later. The snake only fed on the sperm of men, and in return it produced money for her every Saturday. One evening, Kofi sat down again with Vanessa for a serious conversation. "Vanessa," he said calmly, "this is the last time I'm saying this. Please let go of this thing so we can have peace and talk about marriage." Vanessa looked at him quietly, but she shook her head slowly. "Kofi, I'm not ready to go back to poverty." Kofi became frustrated. "But people are dying, and people were killing me slowly with poverty too," Vanessa shouted emotionally. The room suddenly became silent. Despite everything, Vanessa still loved Kofi deeply, and Kofi too still had feelings for her. That was what made the whole thing painful and confusing. Then one day, Kofi decided to seek help from a popular radio presenter at a media house. The man was known for helping people expose fake spiritualists and solving strange public problems. Kofi went secretly to explain everything to the presenter. But immediately after leaving the media house, his phone rang. "Vanessa." Kofi almost screamed, "How do you always know where I go?" he shouted immediately after answering. Vanessa laughed softly. "That radio presenter you went to see has more problems than you. He cannot even solve his own issues. How can he solve yours?" Kofi's heart sank. That day he cried seriously. For the first time in his life, he felt completely trapped. Then Vanessa called him again later that night. "Kofi," she said softly, "I can help you." Kofi kept quiet. "I can take you to the spiritual man who helped me. He can also give you your own power. Then you won't fear marrying me anymore." Kofi sat upright immediately. "What? You'll become rich too," she continued. "No suffering, no fear, we can enjoy life together." But Kofi quickly refused. "No, never." Vanessa became quiet for some seconds, then she sighed deeply. Few days later, Vanessa arrived at Kofi's house, smiling brightly. Outside the house stood a brand new black Toyota Camry. Kofi nearly lost his breath. The car was shining beautifully under the evening light. Vanessa smiled proudly and handed him the keys. "It's yours." Kofi stared at the car in shock. "Mine?" "Yes," Vanessa replied calmly. "You deserve good things too." Honestly, Kofi was tempted, very tempted. The seats inside still smelled new. The dashboard looked like something from a rich man's mansion. Vanessa smiled from afar. But after some minutes, Kofi remembered everything. The fear, the deaths, the strange powers. Immediately his face changed. "No," he said firmly, placing the keys on the table inside the hall. Vanessa's smile disappeared. "You don't want it?" Kofi shook his head slowly and said in his mind, "If I accept this car, I may never escape from this situation." Vanessa's eyes suddenly became cold. When she returned later and saw the keys untouched exactly where she left them, anger filled her face. "Kofi," she said slowly, "do you know I could have killed you long ago?" Kofi froze. Vanessa stepped closer. "The men that died because of me, are you better than them?" Kofi swallowed hard. "I have spared you only because I love you." Her voice became emotional again. "But until I receive the same love from you, I will never rest." Those words frightened Kofi deeply. Eventually, Vanessa drove away angrily with the car. After that, both of them stopped talking for some time. Kofi moved from one place to another, trying to solve the issue quietly. Finally, he decided to visit his own pastor for confession. This pastor was different from the flashy television pastors. He prayed seriously with Kofi and even joined him in fasting. According to Kofi, something strange started happening during the fasting and prayers. Vanessa suddenly stopped describing his movements. She could no longer monitor him clearly. Sometimes she would call and ask where he was, and intentionally, Kofi would lie just to test her. Surprisingly, she couldn't tell he was lying anymore. That was when Kofi and the pastor realized the prayers were actually working. The pastor advised him strongly, "You must move from your current room immediately. She still has access to that place." So Kofi relocated secretly to another area of town, but Vanessa still kept calling him from time to time. Kofi now desperately wanted complete freedom, so he decided to seek another powerful man of God. The moment he arrived at the church premises and sat down waiting for the pastor, his phone rang again. Vanessa. Kofi, she laughed softly. So you're at another pastor's place again? Kofi became weak immediately. Listen carefully, Vanessa continued. If you truly want to know whether this pastor is real, ask him 2 questions. Kofi kept quiet nervously. First, Vanessa said, ask him if he lives at Kasoa. And second, ask him whether he didn't go to perform rituals at a cemetery last week. All his powers come from there. Kofi's body became cold instantly. A few minutes later, the pastor entered the office. The man smiled confidently and sat down. Before discussing anything else, Kofi asked carefully, Papa, do you live at Kasoa? The pastor smiled. Yes, my son. Immediately, fear entered Kofi's heart. He didn't even have courage to ask the second question anymore. Instead, he forced a smile. You resemble someone I know, he lied quickly. The pastor later brought out several oils for sale. Kofi immediately became uncomfortable again. Using wisdom, he politely told the pastor he would return later with money. Inside his heart, he was already running away mentally. The moment he got home, Vanessa called again, laughing. Why didn't you ask him the second question? Kofi remained silent. You were afraid the pastor would know where your information was coming from, she mocked. Then she added proudly, that pastor's level is too small for me. Kofi became deeply disturbed. Later, he visited another pastor again. This time, Kofi actually trusted him because of how seriously he prayed. The pastor also gave him special oil called black cat oil. He instructed Kofi to bath with it for 7 days. Kofi followed the instructions faithfully. But on the 3rd day, something terrifying happened. Kofi dreamt he was lying inside a coffin. He woke up screaming. The next day became worse. Whenever he slept, he saw people carrying his coffin while funeral songs played in the background. Kofi became terrified. He rushed back to the pastor. Papa, I'm seeing myself in a coffin every night. But strangely, the pastor became excited. That means the oil is working, the pastor said confidently. Continue using it. Kofi obeyed. But within the 7 days, the visions became even worse. Sometimes he dreamt he was sleeping with strange women. Other times he would wake up sweating heavily and confused. After the 7 days, Kofi returned again to complain. Instead of helping him stop it, the pastor introduced another set of oils. You need 5 bottles this time, he said seriously. Kofi bought them and returned home, but immediately he entered the house. Vanessa called again. Kofi, she said worriedly, after what the first oil did to you, you still bought the second one? Kofi became silent. This second oil will kill you if you continue, Vanessa warned emotionally. I'm telling you because I love you. But Kofi ignored her warning and started using the second oil. This time, the visions became horrible. He no longer needed to sleep before seeing coffins. Even during daytime, he would suddenly see himself inside a coffin while walking. One day at work, he saw his boss carrying a coffin toward him. Kofi screamed loudly in the office. Everybody became frightened. They rushed him to the hospital for examination. Doctors checked him but found nothing physically wrong. Eventually, he was discharged. The moment he stopped using the oil, all the visions stopped immediately. Kofi decided never to return to that pastor again. One day, a friend told him about a powerful malum. This one is serious, the friend assured him. He can even capture Vanessa spiritually inside a bottle. Out of desperation, Kofi visited the malum. The malum listened carefully and nodded seriously. Then he said, I will call my spirits so you hear their answer yourself. Unknown to Kofi, the malum had secretly dug a hidden underground chamber beneath the room. Inside that hidden place was a small boy. The malum had trained the child to speak mysteriously from underground whenever he claimed spirits were talking. So immediately, the malum began chanting loudly. The hidden child started speaking strange Arabic words underground. The malum then translated dramatically. The spirits demand sheep, chicken, and other items before they help you. Desperate for freedom, Kofi provided everything, but immediately he got home, Vanessa called laughing loudly. Kofi, the malum is enjoying light soup with your sheep and chicken. 3 days later, Kofi returned angrily. Vanessa says you use the animals for food. The malum quickly replied, that means the spirits are fighting her already. But Kofi was becoming wiser now. Then suddenly, while arguing, Kofi accidentally stamped hard on a wooden part of the floor. Koom! A strange hollow sound came from beneath. Kofi frowned. He stamped again. Koom! The Malam quickly became nervous. "Stop that!" he shouted. Immediately, Kofi became suspicious. People nearby heard the argument and entered the room. Kofi explained everything. Together, they removed the carpet and wooden boards from the floor. To everybody's shock, there was a hidden underground room beneath. Inside sat a small child beside a fan, biscuits, water, and blankets. The entire crowd became speechless. Then suddenly, one man shouted, "The powerful spirit is actually small boy Kwame." Everybody burst into laughter. The Malam's face lost color immediately. At that moment, Kofi realized something important. Many people pretending to have spiritual power were only using tricks, fear, and desperate people to survive. After the fake Malam was exposed, the whole town talked about it for weeks. Some people even started calling the hidden child Junior Holy Spirit. Others laughed any time they passed the Malam's house. One old man in the area joked, "So all this time, the powerful Arabic spirit was eating biscuits underground?" Everybody burst into laughter whenever the story came up. But for Kofi, the matter was no longer funny. His life had become full of fear, confusion, fake pastors, fake prophets, fake oils, fake revelations, and strange spiritual problems. Even police officers later stormed the Malam's place after discovering that the same man had also been deceiving them for protection charms. But by then, the Malam had already disappeared like free Wi-Fi. Kofi shook his head sadly. This world, eh? That evening, he sat quietly in his room, thinking deeply. He was tired, very tired. Everywhere he went, somebody was selling oil. Another person was selling miracles. Another one was selling special direction. At this point, Kofi felt if somebody sneezed near him, the next thing the person would say is, "My son, buy this oil first." Still desperate, Kofi visited another famous pastor people described as very powerful. When Kofi explained everything, the pastor leaned back slowly and smiled. "My son," he said calmly, "this is actually a breakthrough." Kofi blinked twice. "A breakthrough?" "Yes," the pastor replied excitedly. "Why are you running away from a rich woman who loves you? If she has power and money and says she won't harm you, enjoy your life." Kofi almost fell from the chair. The pastor continued confidently, "You people don't know opportunities when you see them." Kofi stared at him in shock. Then the pastor lowered his voice. "Actually, give me her number." Kofi frowned. "What? I want to work with her," the pastor whispered seriously. "A woman with such powers should not be wasted." Kofi became angry immediately. "Papa, aren't you supposed to help me?" The pastor adjusted his suit calmly. "And I'm helping you. If you don't want her, I can manage her." Kofi stood up angrily. At that moment, he realized some pastors were not fighting darkness. They were applying for partnership. Kofi left the office boiling with anger. Outside, he spoke to himself. At this point, if Satan opens church branch, some people will still become ushers there. That night, Kofi decided he was tired of moving from place to place. "No more," he said firmly. But few days later, while changing television channels at home, he saw another pastor preaching powerfully. This one looked serious. Simple church, strong prayers, no shouting for money during the sermon. Kofi felt peace watching him. "This one may be genuine," he said hopefully. The next day, he visited the church. The pastor listened carefully to everything. Then he nodded slowly. "My son, buy one dove." Kofi immediately became confused. Dove again? But since he had already spent money on goats, chickens, oils, and almost sponsored an entire spiritual zoo, he decided to obey. He bought the dove. The pastor prayed over it seriously and asked Kofi to go home. 3 days later, Kofi returned. Then the pastor introduced something called dragon oil. "One bottle is 1,000 Ghana cedis," the pastor announced confidently. Kofi nearly swallowed his tongue. 1,000? Yes, spiritual things are expensive. Kofi somehow bought 3 bottles. The pastor gave him serious directions. "When you start using this oil," the pastor said dramatically, "Vanessa will begin fighting you and disappear from your life forever." Kofi finally felt hopeful again. But after using the oil, the exact opposite happened. Vanessa suddenly became sweeter than ever. She started visiting him more often, cooking for him, cleaning his room, buying him gifts. Even one day she washed his clothes. Kofi nearly cried. "This confusion will finish me," he quickly called the pastor. "Papa, the lady is now becoming more loving." The pastor paused shortly. Then he replied confidently, "That means the oil is working deeper." Kofi scratched his head. "How?"
No!
Come and buy 7 more bottles. Kofi nearly fainted. 7, yes, 7,000 cedis. At this point, Kofi suspected even the oil itself was confused. Still, out of desperation, he bought them. Later, Vanessa laughed when she heard. Kofi, she said softly, that pastor is part of a cult group. Stop running from one pastor to another. By now, Kofi's relationship with Vanessa became strangely closer again. They ate together, watched movies together, sometimes even cooked together and bathed together. Vanessa became very open with him. She even promised to remove the snake anytime she visited his house so he wouldn't be afraid. But still, Kofi refused to sleep with her. Fear had already built permanent house inside his heart. One evening after Vanessa left, Kofi sat alone thinking deeply. All these pastors, all these oils, all these directions, yet nothing is changing. For the first time, he began asking himself an important question. What if I'm searching wrongly? But before he could answer himself properly, his auntie introduced yet another very powerful pastor. This requested something strange. A black crow egg. Kofi almost shouted. At this point, are we solving problem or opening poultry farm? But Desperate pushed him again. After searching seriously, Kofi finally got the egg. The pastor placed it inside a bowl of water and started chanting dramatically. Then suddenly he announced, I have called Vanessa's soul into this bowl. Kofi moved closer carefully. Honestly, he saw nothing except ordinary water and his own confused reflection. The pastor looked serious. What do you want us to do to her? Kofi became emotional. I don't want her destroyed. I just want peace. I want the love between us to disappear so both of us can be free. The pastor shook his head slowly. The level this woman has reached in the spirit is too dangerous. Then he lowered his voice. Unless she is killed. Kofi jumped immediately. No, I didn't come here for that. The pastor tried convincing him. My junior pastor can handle it quietly. But Kofi became frightened and angry. He immediately left the church. That night, he called Vanessa. Why won't you come over today? He asked softly. Vanessa became quiet. Then she replied painfully. Kofi, now you have become like Judas. Kofi froze. You want people to kill me? No! Kofi shouted quickly. That's not why I went there. Then why? She asked emotionally. Kofi's voice softened. I just want both of us to find salvation. Silence filled the phone. For the first time in many months, Vanessa started crying quietly. And strangely, Kofi too nearly cried. Because despite everything, somewhere inside all the fear, confusion, darkness, fake miracles, fake oils, fake prophecies, and manipulation, there was still Kofi looking for peace. But Vanessa was not ready to let go of darkness. Will Kofi come to the realization that putting your trust completely in men can never truly solve spiritual problems? Not every pastor speaking loudly knows God. Not every oil carries power. Not every prophet is from God. Many people today move from one church to another, one pastor to another, one spiritualist to another, looking for quick solutions. But true freedom does not come from blindly following men. True freedom comes from sincerely seeking God yourself and building a real relationship with Him. There are many Christians today going through painful situations and moving from one fake pastor to another, later saying God does not exist. But if they would patiently seek God genuinely, instead of chasing shortcuts and fake powers, many of their problems would have been solved differently. And that is the greatest lesson Kofi should learn from this story. Don't forget to subscribe to Gentle Truth for more powerful, emotional, suspense-filled stories that reveal hidden lessons about life, love, faith, and truth. On this channel, every story is more than entertainment. It carries wisdom, deep emotions, and lessons that can change the way you see life. Subscribe now, turn on the notification bell, and join the Gentle Truth family so you never miss our next life-changing story. Remember, not everything that shines is from God, and not every smile hides peace. Stay wise, stay prayerful, and stay connected to Gentle Truth.